You didn't fall in love. You were swallowed. There was no moment you could point to and say, there, that's where it started. It didn't start. It arrived. Like carbon monoxide. Invisible, odorless, already inside you before you knew to be afraid.
One day, you were a person with a life, routines, a body that existed in rooms without constantly checking a phone. And then there was a name. And that name became a frequency. And that frequency started playing underneath everything. Underneath your sleep, your meals, your conversations with people who had no idea they were speaking to someone who was no longer entirely present. This is not a love story. This is the story of what happens when your nervous system decides, without your permission, that one specific human being is the answer to something you cannot name. And it doesn't let go. It begins quietly, almost beautifully. A glance that lasted half a second too long. A message that arrived at 11 p.m. A laugh that felt like it was meant specifically for you, excavated from somewhere private. Something small. Something that in another life, in a healthier architecture of the self, you would have noticed and released. But you didn't release it. You stored it. You turned it over in your hands in the dark, in bed, at 3 in the morning when the rest of the world had gone offline. And it was just you and this tiny fragment of a person. Not even the person, just a fragment. Reconstructing it, expanding it, reading it against the light to see what was hidden inside. And something inside you said, more. So you went looking. Not aggressively, not consciously, but the mind, your mind, began to organize itself around this person the way iron filings organize around a magnet, involuntarily, completely. Every piece of available information became data. Their social media became scripture. You learned the rhythm of when they posted. You noticed when they went silent. You began to construct a model of them inside your head. Not who they were, but who they could be, who they might be, who they would be if only the conditions were right, if only you were in the right room at the right time, if only... The fantasy is the first trap, because the person inside your head has no flaws you haven't preemptively forgiven. The person inside your head never says the wrong thing, never disappoints you, never fails to see you. The person inside your head was built entirely from your own longing, and they are perfect, and they are not real. And you know this somewhere in the part of your mind that still has electricity. But the knowing doesn't stop anything. It never stops anything. You start organizing your days around the possibility of them, not the certainty, the possibility. You take a different route because they might be there. You wear something specific because today might be the day something shifts. You craft messages with the precision of someone disarming a bomb. Each word weighed, each punctuation mark reconsidered, sent and then immediately regretted, immediately reread. Read again through their eyes, read again through the eyes of someone watching you read it through their eyes. This is what it feels like from the inside. Like electricity, like meaning. Like finally, after a long time of feeling like a room with no one in it, something is happening. Your brain is flooded. Not metaphorically, literally flooded. Dopamine surging in anticipation, cortisol spiking in the gaps. The reward circuit hijacked by a pattern that your nervous system has decided is the most important thing that has ever existed. You feel more alive than you have in years. This is the cruelty of it.
Here is what no one tells you about limerence. It is not about them. It was never about them. The person you have become obsessed with is almost incidental, a projection screen onto which you have thrown every unresolved hunger you have ever carried. The need to be chosen, the need to be seen in a specific way, a way that perhaps no one has ever quite managed. The wound that never closed, The one that sits quietly at the center of you and has been waiting, sometimes for decades, for the right face to attach itself to. That face arrived, and your unconscious mind said, this one can fix it. And the machinery started.
Because limerence is not love. Love is slow. Love is patient in the way that growing things are patient. Limerence is desperate. Limerence is urgent. Limerence cannot tolerate uncertainty because uncertainty feels like dying. Because somewhere in the deep basement of your psychology, the love of this specific person has become confused with survival itself. The intrusive thoughts, and you know the ones, arrive without invitation. In meetings, in the shower, in the middle of sentences you're trying to complete for other people. A memory surfaces, a hypothetical, a conversation that hasn't happened yet, but that you have rehearsed so many times it has worn grooves in you. You don't choose these thoughts. You cannot stop them. They arrive the way hunger arrives, from the inside, without courtesy, without concern for timing.
And every small sign from them becomes enormous, disproportionately enormous. A text response that came 30 minutes later than usual becomes a symptom. A shift in their tone becomes evidence of something. You are reading tea leaves. You are a seismologist monitoring tremors that no one else can feel. The emotional logic is airtight from the inside. Every piece of data confirms the hypothesis, including the pieces that contradict it. Because your mind is not looking for truth. Your mind is looking for them. And underneath all of this, underneath the electricity and the obsession and the devastating creativity of the longing, is something much quieter, much older. The belief, installed somewhere before you had language for it, that you are only fully real when you are reflected in the eyes of someone who has chosen you. That your own interior is not quite enough. That you need a witness, a specific witness. This one. This is the mechanism. This is what you have been circling without being able to name it. And then time passes, and nothing resolves. Because limerence runs on uncertainty, and uncertainty is something the object of your obsession will always be able to provide, even without trying, even without knowing. They cannot give you what you need, because what you need is not something they possess. What you need is located somewhere inside yourself, in a room you have not been able to find, and you have outsourced the search to someone who doesn't have a map. You begin to notice what has quietly disappeared. The friendships you have been partially absent from for months, present in body, elsewhere in mind. The work that has become harder to care about, harder to concentrate on, because concentration requires a unified self, and your self has been divided, the larger part of it living in a hypothetical future that keeps not arriving. The hobbies, the small private pleasures, the person you were before this, that person has become somehow harder to locate, like a radio station you can still almost hear through the static, but can no longer quite tune into. You are thinner in places, not physically, psychologically thinner, worn through in spots. The hope is the worst part.
The hope does not diminish the way hope should. It does not metabolize. It sits in you like something that has no intention of leaving, feeding on every ambiguous signal, surviving on nothing, extraordinarily resilient. You have tried, possibly, to cut it off, to reason with yourself, to list their flaws on paper, to remind yourself of evidence. But hope in limerence is not rational, and so rational instruments cannot touch it. It lives below the waterline. It does not respond to argument. And the longing is a physical thing by now.
Here is the question that stays. Not whether they feel it too, not whether it will resolve, whether they will turn toward you finally, and the uncertainty will collapse into something real, something you can hold. The question that stays is this. What were you looking for before their face gave you somewhere to look? Because limerence does not create the hunger. It finds it. It finds the hunger that was already there, old, patient, pre-existing, and gives it a name and a face and a direction. And when it ends, as it ends, the hunger remains. Quieter, perhaps, but present. And the terrifying thing, the thing you will sit with long after the obsession has finally, exhaustedly released you, is the possibility that you have spent all of this time mapping someone else's interior when the room that needed attending to was always yours. The door was always yours. You just kept looking for someone else to open it.
You have started to organize your identity around this, around the waiting, around the not yet. You are the person who loves them. It has become quietly the most load-bearing thing about you. Remove it, and there is a question you are not sure you can answer. Who are you when you are not wanting this? The mirror shows you someone you recognize, but don't entirely know anymore. You have been so busy constructing them, their interior, their motivations, their potential feelings for you, that your own interior has become somewhat uninhabited. A house whose owner keeps leaving the lights on, but never comes home.